Hi guys, here's my next project. It's a lane cedar chest. It's an Art Deco waterfall style. When I flipped it upside down, you can tell what the date is that it was made by reading the serial numbers backwards. This piece came with the lock still intact, and if you did not know that these locks have been recalled, and you can also get replacement locks, but I just find it easier to take this top latch out. There's only 4 screws and it comes right off, and now the chest isn't gonna lock when it shuts. So next I decided to tackle the bottom. Here I am trying to be a hero and trying to flip the hope chest upside down so that I can work on it, and I finally just gave up and put it on the floor. So here you can see the base of the hope chest has this skirting, which was not in good condition, so all I did was find all the screws and I unscrewed it, and luckily the piece came right off. You'll see that the skirting comes in 2 pieces, so I already unscrewed the first piece off and that was the second piece. And these are those flathead screws that are really no fun, but using the drill, it makes it a lot easier to get it off. So here's a better view of that first piece I took off, which I'm gonna hang on to and use as my base. This skirting came off a lot easier than I thought, and it gave me a lot of options about adding legs or feet. I did have a couple different options on hand to choose from, but in the end I decided to just use that first piece I showed you. So here I am starting my sanding with 80 grit. This is a pretty thin veneer on this piece, so I had to be super careful about not going through the veneer. And as you can see, I used a couple different sanders. I have a larger Rotex Festool 150, and this one here is the smaller Rotex 90. It has a couple of different head attachments. Here you can see I'm using the Delta attachment, which is the straight edge, and I also used the foam attachment when I was doing that curved spot there. So once I got my sanding done, I went ahead and attached that first piece that I showed you that I took off from the original base, and I used the same screws that it came with. Next, there was some veneer that was chipping, and I was originally gonna just fill it with Bondo, but now that I'm deciding that this piece is gonna be whitewashed, I just plucked off all those pieces with the different putty knives and the scraper. Once I had my whole piece sanded, I used a tack cloth to get off all the dust. I decided to use Shackteau Interior's milk paint in the color sand, and for this technique I used about a 3-to-1 ratio, so 3 parts water to 1 part milk paint powder. And doing the wash, I make sure that I go with the grain when I'm painting, and this piece was a little bit tricky because the grain is going in different directions. So once my paint dried, I used just a sanding sponge in the 220 grit to sand it, because once you put the wash on, it raises up the wood grain a little bit, and I don't like to use my power sander for this technique. So I cleaned it with the tack cloth, and now I am ready to apply my top coat. I decided to use water-based poly. I pour a little bit of the poly into a container so that I don't contaminate the rest of my poly. And here I'm using the new Zebra top coat brushes, and that made it super easy because that brush was pretty big. And I used the same technique. I went with the grain of the wood, and you can see there's different patterns, so I just kind of stuck with whatever way the wood was going. The poly was the triple coat poly, so I only did one coat, which seemed to work out fine, and here's how my piece looks now. You can always modify this technique by using 2 coats of wash or 2 coats of top coat, whatever you feel that your piece needs. And for me, I was kind of lucky. This one only needed 1 of each. And you can see the new feet that I used. It's part of the original design, but I think it just streamlines it a bit. So I was really happy with the result on this piece. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions.